We will now move on to the first presentation of the event. I'm honored to have Mr. Goh Tia Yong, partner of People Consulting and Ernst Young Advisory. Mr. Goh has provided a wide range of people consulting services that support digital and workforce transformation projects in multiple sectors such as public services, manufacturing, and telecommunications by linking business strategies to people-organization dynamics. These cover the design of organization structures, job redesign, manpower planning, development of a high-performance culture, talent management, succession planning, as well as business process review and optimization. Let's welcome Mr. Goh on stage to give a presentation on maritime workforce transformation, learning from maritime and other sectors. Mr. Goh, please.
Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. Good morning, everyone. Very thankful to the organizers for inviting me to speak about it today, about this topic today. I assure you that I need to start off with a disclaimer. And the disclaimer is that I've not worked a day in the maritime industry. But I'm very fortunate that the last 4 years, I've worked very closely with the maritime industry to work on some of the changes from a workforce perspective that we need to effect to make the workforce, the maritime workforce, something that youths are going to be proud of. Youths are going to be proud of joining, proud of working, and proud of staying in the industry. I started my career in consulting about 10 years back. I was at SAF, a Singapore Army officer, before that for 14 years. In my very first engagement as a consultant, I remember speaking to a business owner here in Singapore. If you eat chili crab, you probably visited one of his restaurants before. So for those who are our foreigners, our foreign guests today, if you haven't eaten chili crabs, I encourage you to eat that today. And I asked him one question. I asked him, what keeps you up at night? Is it not enough revenue? Is it not enough customers? Or is it not enough people? And his answer was very clear. He said, JY, if I don't have enough people, nothing else matters. If I don't have enough good people, nothing else matters, right? I can't worry about customers, I can't worry about operations if I know that I don't have good people to work with me in my organization. And I think that's why when you look at how SMW has been organized, manpower is the last topic of the day, not because it's the least important, but because it's the most important, right? And I'm glad to be able to share some of these things with you. I want to start off by talking about what's on the horizon, taking stock of what we have to deal with, and then I want to talk about what some other industries have moved forward on in terms of workforce transformation and what are some of the lessons learned that we can imbibe in our industry. So, over the course of this entire week, the last 4 days, you have heard many discussions, you have been participating in a lot of conversations around digitalization, around the green transition, around sustainability, around digitalization. So I'm not going to repeat all those points over here. You are very well familiar with the issues over there. But I want to draw our attention to the last topic that you see on the screen, around the workforce. And what's interesting for us to think about is that the needs and wants and the aspirations of the workforce that we're trying to pull into the maritime industry has changed significantly, right? They are driven by purpose. They are driven by creating impact. They are driven by having the flexibility to decide what they want to do at any point in their careers, rather than being pitched the idea of a 30-year career. Join us, we know exactly what you will do over the next 30 years. They don't want all of that anymore, right? They want purpose, they want impact, they want flexibility, they want the ability to navigate their own careers based on what motivates them, based on what interests them, based on what energizes them. And another thing about the workforce profile that we need to be very clear about, or we need to acknowledge, is that they are open to changes. In fact, if you sit down with any millennials or any Gen Zs today, and if you ask them, what do you want to do in 5 years, they will not be able to give you an answer, or rather they haven't thought about it because they are concerned about the clear and now. What are the experiences and the learning I want to have in the next 1 to 2 years, rather than what's going to happen in the next 5, 10 years. Yeah. So how do we react to some of these things? How do we make a career in maritime still viable, still interesting, still engaging to them? Is something that we have to grapple with. As we, and SPS spoke about this earlier, in our industry, we also then recognize that there are changes in the skill sets that we need our people to have, right? We need them to continue to deepen the enduring skills. And this could be enduring skills in the digital domain, in their own domain respective technical skills, and enduring skills in terms of sustainability, ESG, so on and so forth. And they need to deepen those skill sets. But they also need to broaden their skill sets with some of the emerging skills that I've shown you on this screen today. Because there will be new things that they need to work on. Because there will be new areas of work that they need to innovate, they need to drive the innovation for you. And so these emerging skills are going to be more important moving ahead while maintaining that focus on the enduring skills and the deepening of the enduring skills. So when we look at our workforce, there's a little bit of a dilemma, right? Do we deepen our people in terms of their skill sets, in the enduring skills? Do we broaden them in terms of the emerging skill sets that we need them to have? The answer is you need to do both. But perhaps we need to do both in a strategic manner and stagger it in terms of skills development across a life cycle of an individual, rather than, at any point in time, I need you to do both things. JY, you're working with me for the next 2 years. You need to deepen your skill set in enduring skills. You need to broaden your skill sets in emerging skills. It might be a cognitive challenge for them. So we need to think about staggering this skills development so that it's palatable, so that it's digestible, and more importantly, so that it's engaging and they can apply the skills on the job as they go along. Another thing that we found in the TAP findings, the engagements that SPS referred to over the last 1 year, is that job roles are also going to evolve and change in our industry. And I'll draw your attention first to the evolving job roles. These are job roles that we have today, but the way these job roles are going to operate, impacted by digitalization, the green transition, sustainability, and all those trends that we talked about earlier, the way they perform their jobs will change. So we're referring to this as evolving jobs. So you can't stay static. Today, if you're in any one of these job roles, you need to continue to upskill. You need to continue to reskill, because the way you perform your job roles will change in the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, right? As we embark on some of the mega trends and overcome some of these mega trends that we spoke about over the course of this week. But there will also be new jobs created, right? And we are calling this just new jobs on the screen, right? And these new jobs are fundamentally new areas of work that you may not have present today, or you may not have present 5 years ago. And these are now new emerging capabilities, new job roles, new skills that you need to have within your organization. Then the question is, how do we redesign job such that we can help our workers in the evolving job roles continue to succeed? How do we reposition some of them to take up these new jobs that we need within our industry so that they chart new paths for us, they chart new territories for us in our organization? That's the essence of job redesign that we're going to talk a little bit more about today. Now, what I've just alluded to is really the triple transition. If you think about our workforces, we need to help them go through a triple transition. Transition in the ways of working, transition in the skills they require, transition in the job opportunities that we will have for them now and in the future, right? And we need to guide them along this entire journey together as an industry. So I've painted the landscape, I've painted a picture of what we are dealing with in maritime industry. Let me now tap on some examples of other industries that we can perhaps glean some lessons on. And there are 4 key lessons, and I'm going to go through them one by one. First one is rethinking. And I'm showing you a quote here by the organization psychologist Adam Grant. Hopefully you have read one of his books. The latest book around hidden potential is something that I fully encourage everyone to read. But the essence of this is that we need to rethink how we operate. And rethink like a scientist, right? Questioning not what has worked well for us, but questioning what has not worked well for us and how we need to improve. Given the trends that we talked about earlier, sustainability, green transition, energy transition, so on and so forth, there will be fundamental rethinking that's needed in terms of the way we do our work, in terms of the way our job roles are configured, in terms of the way the skill sets are needed within our organizations. So that's the first thing that I would encourage everyone to think about, rethinking. What do we rethink about? I think we need to rethink, first and foremost, about the mindsets that we have, that we carry with us, whether is it at the organizational level, at the leadership level, or even the mindsets of our employees that we need to help to shape and nudge and nurture over time. The first thing is at the organizational level, right? If you haven't already, and I'm sure very few of you aren't already on this, if you haven't already embraced digitalization, explored the way technology can help you change some of the ways of working within an organization, explore the way how you can be part of that conversation and driving that conversation on sustainability, it's time to do so. But as we rethink at the organizational level some of these things around sustainability and digitalization, let's also take that opportunity to revamp the career value proposition that we offer to our employees. That they're not just joining a maritime company or organization. They are joining an organization that's creating impact on these areas around sustainability, around digitalization, creating an impact, and the potential for change is huge for all of us. So if you join us in this industry, you have that potential to create that impact moving ahead. So that's the mindset shift that's needed at the organizational level. What about the mindset shift that's needed at the leadership level? And I'm referring to all of us in this room and your colleagues outside of this room, right? We need to, of course, be very clear and kept abreast around what our workforces are thinking about. What are their aspirations? I talked about earlier that their aspirations are ever evolving, but what are their latest aspirations at that point in time? How do we engage them effectively to develop those skill sets that we need them to have to redesign their job roles effectively? We also need to change the mindset at the employee level, and that's our job as leaders, right? We need to nudge and we need to push them along that change from a mindset perspective. Our employees may, and I say may with a very big caveat, right, that I hope that most of them don't. Our employees may have that mindset that I've learned everything that I need to learn to do my job for the next 20, 30, 40 years. If that's the case, how can we as organizations nudge them along that change in the mindset to say that, look, I think lifelong learning is really important. Continuous learning is really important. The skills that you had that got you to where you are today will not be the skills that keep you in the industry successfully in the next 5 to 10 years. So how do we then foster that culture of lifelong learning and continuous learning within the organization? That's something that we need to help our employees change. The second thing that we need to help employees change is lateral pathways. I mentioned earlier new pathways within the organization, basically. Right? I mentioned earlier that the young millennial, the young Gen Z, will not be able to tell you what they want to do in the next 5 to 10 years. So don't ask that question. Instead, ask them, what do you want to do in the next 1 to 2 years? And in the next 1 to 2 years, the learning that you will have, the skills that you will have, what kind of opportunities does it help you unlock within the industry? After you have done 2 years in a particular role, what are the possibilities available to you at the end of the 2 years within the industry, within your organization? And you'll be surprised at the kind of pathways that you will find in your company if you endeavor to sit down and map these things out. So the young 20, 21-year-old who just graduated, having worked 2 years in your organization, they're 23 years old, they're continuously exploring new possibilities. When they're 25, they're exploring new possibilities in your organization. They don't want a map that tells them, this is where you are now, this is everything that you will do for the next 30 years, right? They want that availability of choice and the possibility of unlocking their potential at any point in time. So that's the mindset shift that we need our employees to help our employees change. Job redesign. To do all of that, we need to then rethink job roles in our organization. We need to then think about the skill sets our people have, which is under the people element, the processes and the business process re-engineering that's needed to change ways of working, to leverage technology as an enabler whenever possible, to change our people practices around our HR policies, so on and so forth. And then, of course, the working conditions, and can we try to improve the working conditions of our people. And I'm referring both to our seagoing professionals as well as our shore-based professionals within the industry. We need to explore all of these. I'll give you one example. We are now working with a ground handling company here in Singapore, with operations in Singapore, I should say, but they are a global organization. And we are targeting ground handlers working on the air side. How can we fundamentally change the job roles on the air side? And how can we fundamentally change the career value proposition of workers on the air side? I'm referring to cargo handlers, I'm referring to people who do airplane turnarounds, so on and so forth. And one key thing that we found when we spoke to the workers there, we spoke to the employees there, is they recognize that conditions on the air side is hard. I mean, if you have ever spent 4 hours in the afternoon on the tarmac on the airport, you will understand what I'm talking about, right? But they join us despite those conditions. What they want is that the company invests in their skills development. The company opens up opportunities for them to become a duty manager, to become an airport terminal manager, to become an executive in the organization, driving policy change, driving technology change. They want that sometime in their careers, but they're willing to put in the hard work now at the operational level to acquire the operational experience to be able to succeed in the future. So if we recognize those are our people's aspirations, how can we then redesign across these 5 elements to allow for those career conversations to happen, to allow for those career pathways to happen? I give you another example on job redesign. In the logistics industry, and we're talking about an organization that does a 3PL role in the logistics industry. What key changes that we have effected there is that we have looked at the role of the warehouse assistant, we have looked at the role of the technicians maintaining the logistics fleet over there. And they have had historical difficulty in hiring and retaining locals into this workforce. So what we did there was, obviously there was a lot of digitalization and automation that could have been built in, and we guided them along that journey. But more importantly, as the technology gets built in, rethinking the value addedness of the human becomes really important. So we help them think about what are some of these job roles that can be elevated to perform higher levels of responsibility in their organization, given that technology and automation has helped to take away some of the mundane, some of the manual work. We've helped them think about new ways of training, in the sense that you learn on the job and you learn on the go, rather than you sit in the classroom and you learn all the skills for the next 2 years, working as a warehouse assistant, working as a technician in your organization. We've rethought some of the career development opportunities that we are offering to some of these people. So the employees in this organization, you may be starting off as a warehouse assistant, you may be starting off as a technician maintaining your fleet. We want to get you to be an executive level, we want to get you to be a manager level within 10 years of your career in my organization, in this organization. Effectively mapping out a possible pathway for them to succeed and letting them know that as you stay with us and work with us, we will invest in you and we will help you succeed in your careers as well. Which brings me to my next point. People don't join jobs, people join careers. Right? If you're speaking to a young 18, 19-year-old and you're trying to get them to join your company for the next 2-3 years at best, because we are talking about Gen Zs and millennials, they need to know that whatever experiences and learning that they have acquired in your organization will help them succeed in the industry. So I'm talking about career in the industry. Moving ahead, they will get the necessary skills, the necessary capabilities to succeed in multiple different types of pathways in the industry. So we need to start to think about redesigning careers at the industry level. We need to start to think about, as an industry, how do we help invest in the right skilling for these individuals so that they can have career progression, possibilities to explore. They can have skills that are imbued in them on a continuous basis. They can have the ability to get mentors and career guidance to navigate their pathways within the industry. So we need to rethink some of these things, and we have done this for other industries as well, right? So the ecosystem becomes really important. Which brings me to this slide. We need to leverage an ecosystem of partners. When we look at all the stakeholders that are involved in any job redesign effort, we typically think about the company, we typically think about the employees that they work with as the two groups of stakeholders. But if we take a step back, and I think SMW offers us an opportunity to do this, if we take a step back, we recognize that the ecosystem that we need to build, the coalition that we need to build is going to be much larger. We need to leverage educational institutions. What can our educational institutions do to partner us on better skilling of our people? How can we work better with international organizations and labor unions to rethink and reimagine how we are raising and sustaining the workforce for maritime? We need to collaborate with other sectors, technology vendors, other industry players in other industries, the financial sector, for example, the legal sector, for example, to rethink what are some of the possibilities when it comes to job redesign for us. We need to work with, of course, governments and the industry associations, and we have been doing that. But if we start to think about the ecosystem as comprising all these different players, the possibilities becomes different, and the possibilities that emerge out of conversations at this level become something that will help us move ahead. Last point. If we are able to do all those things, and I've shared with you sort of 4 lessons from other industries, we should be able to then move very confidently into the future. And I'm sharing with you a quote by Peter Drucker. So he's obviously a very famous management thinker, right? And he says that the role of an organization is to help common people do uncommon things, essentially. But it takes an ecosystem working together to be able to do that. And hopefully, the 4 lessons that I've shared with us earlier today, you will have seen that there are possibilities available for us to redesign jobs, redesign careers, and help everyone in the industry do uncommon things together. I also want to leave you with one last quote. And I spent 4 years in the University of Michigan. And those of you who are college football fans, you will know that Michigan won the championship, college football championship last year. So I'm leaving you with a quote from Coach Bo Schembechler. And he's a very famous coach in the 1980s for the University of Michigan. Those who stay will be champions. And I'm going to borrow that and I'm going to change that a little bit. Those who join and stay with us will be champions. And let me leave you with that quote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Goh, for the insightful sharing.